Hello, you are tuning into the Story Hour podcast, Voices Unscripted, Stories Rewritten with your host, Sara Jaswal. I am so excited to be here. I am back for another solo episode, and today is a very special episode because we are celebrating 1 year birthday anniversary of the Story Hour podcast's launch. I launched this podcast last year, June 22nd, 2025, and I cannot believe that we are already here at the 1 year mark. It is so crazy. And so I thought, what better way to commemorate the podcast, to celebrate the podcast, than to dedicate this episode and this week to everything I've learned along the way, the reason why I launched the podcast, the lessons I've learned, the conversations that I've had, the guests that have shared their heart and vulnerability, what the challenges were that I faced in this last year, and everything else. And so I wanted to do something special for us, for all of us. And so obviously I'm the host, so I bring on guests and I share a lot about my story and certain aspects, and I bring on guests to share their stories, to normalize them, and also to empower and inspire you who are listening to take back control of your health and your life, and really to find meaning in your life, regardless of all the hardships and challenges that we face. So originally, I was actually going to ask a friend to interview me this time. Obviously, I'm the one asking all the questions. I'm the one that's digging deeper into your story. And even though I share a lot of my story, I just thought it'd be kind of cool for you to all kind of learn a little bit more about me. So I'm in the opposite seat today. I just didn't get my shit in order in time. So I didn't actually get to plan this out properly and have a friend interview me. So I just kind of on a whim was like, I'm just going to do this on my own. So I actually use ChatGPT, and yeah, I do use it in certain circumstances. Everything I produce and create is my own, but I use it to just assist me in the work that I do, especially with the podcast. AI has been such a great help with the podcast, with just editing and modifying and all the tech stuff that goes into it. And so I actually just plugged into ChatGPT questions that can be asked of me about just this last year, about grief, about my journey, about just everything. And to my surprise, I was curious of what it would actually spit out for me, but to my surprise, it actually provided some pretty cool questions. And so honestly, I did this last night, so I didn't rehearse them. I actually don't know them. I skimmed through them, but it was really late at night. And so I literally just copied and pasted, printed them. And I'm going to go through them with you. And so I am not only your host today, but I'm also your guest. And if you've been here for the last year, if you've been part of my journey for years and years, you know a lot about me already, because I do share a lot of that, and I really enjoy doing that. And this podcast has meant so much to me, just in so many different ways. And I am just so grateful and so blessed for my community, the community that I've built around the Story Hour podcast. If you know me, you know I'm big on community and connection. And this has been so great. And it's actually been a lot of fun. There's definitely challenges, which we will talk about, but I think anything in life that you really want, it's hard. You have to work for it. And this is really a passion project for me, but I hope it takes me somewhere. I hope through my storytelling and through using my skills and my education and training and, just who I am personally, along with who I am professionally, this podcast encompasses all of that. The way I show up in the interviews, the phone calls that I have before the interview, the way I can hold space, the way I can attune to the guest, that all comes from my education and background as a registered counselor. And then the education piece is I'm a certified grief educator, and then I'm also a coach. So all of that is encompassed into this podcast. So it's not just like I'm sitting here and I'm interviewing off a whim. There's a lot that goes into these episodes, like I've shared many times before, even the solo episodes. Sometimes I'll just get on and I'll just talk and whatever comes through, comes through. But most of the time it's intentional. Usually I have a topic in mind, an idea in mind. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. But I'm just so blessed and so grateful. And I just want to first start off by saying thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for everyone who is listening, who is engaging with the podcast, who is sharing the podcast, who is downloading the episodes, who is commenting and even sending me private messages about how you have found connection and relatability in what's been shared on the Story Hour podcast, and not just from myself, but from the lovely, amazing guests that I've had on the show so far. Every message means so much to me. I read all of them. Even if you're watching or listening from afar, I see you. I was actually just looking at the stats before I jumped on to record this, and I am so blown away. So in 1 year, I have had, so this is episode 17. So on that, I wish I had more episodes. My intention was to have more frequent episodes, but life happens and I didn't get around to that. And I also, it's not my full-time job. I do work elsewhere and it's just a passion project. So, and it takes a lot out of me. There's a lot of work that goes into it, like I mentioned. And so I didn't really get to where I wanted to be a guest in terms of how many episodes I launched in a year, but 17 is better than 0. And I did the damn thing. And so that's something to celebrate and to acknowledge. And I'm proud of that. So yeah, 17 episodes. The Story Hour podcast is almost at 1,000 downloads. And if you're new here or you don't quite understand what that means, is I've shared this before, but I'll just reiterate it and share it now and why it's so important. If you are listening, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, or wherever on YouTube, it's really helpful for the host and the creator if you can download the episodes, because the more downloads there are for the episode, the algorithm pushes your podcast up and higher and higher. It starts ranking higher and higher. And the whole purpose of that isn't just for the rank, it's actually to reach a far greater audience. And so that means people are interested in the podcast, they're liking what they're hearing, they're enjoying it, they want more of it. So it pushes the algorithm to push your podcast higher up. And that's what the downloads mean. So it's not necessarily about the numbers. It's more so for reaching a greater audience. And that's my mission. That's my purpose, not just with the podcast, but with the work that I'm doing. The reason why I show up the way I do is to just, heal as much as the world that I can, or the impact that I can make. Obviously, I'm like a very small percentage of the, collective, but all of that matters. It all matters. And so the more people that I can touch and reach, that means the more people then you can touch and reach. And it's a domino effect. And that's how we heal humanity, is bit by bit. We all do our part. We're all of service. We all share our gifts, our wisdom, our stories, our perspectives. And that's how change happens. And that's how we all connect. Because underneath all the shit, all the bullshit, all the societal pressures and the government overreach and everything that's happening in our world today, beneath all of that, we are all the same. We are all human, no matter what race you are, no matter what gender you are, no matter what color you are, no matter what age you are, no matter what your social status is, none of that matters. And so if we can find common ground in our shared experiences and our shared humanity, that's the point. That's the purpose of all of this. And so for me, that's really important, because that's something that I feel like is my mission, that I was put here to do and to speak to, things that I do, because I believe that's why I'm here. And that's why I had to go through my own personal journeys to get to where I am. And so that's what the downloads are, just for anyone who is curious of what that means, because I did have people ask me, like, what does that mean when you say download? So if you're listening, you usually see an arrow that's pointing downwards. That's usually the download button. And so that means a lot. And again, that just expands our reach. So 17 episodes, almost 1,000 downloads. And you guys, we're in 9 countries. That is so crazy. And again, better than 0. 9 is obviously, I would love to expand even more and broaden that even wider. But 9 countries, I would have never imagined. We have United States, Canada, Africa, Singapore, Vietnam, Asia, Europe. Like, that is so cool to me, that the podcast is reaching people far and wide and that are resonating with it. And it's just so great. The community here is amazing. And then even cities, I was going through it because it breaks it down to countries and cities. So like obviously Surrey, Vancouver, Langley, New York City, Chicago, Virginia, Minnesota, Pennsylvania. So many cool places that the podcast is being listened to. And so if that is you, if you reside in one of those countries, in one of those cities, thank you, thank you, thank you. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, deeply, deeply appreciate you. I am grateful for you. And let's keep the ball rolling. Let's continue the conversations going. And this isn't the end. This is actually just the beginning. I have no idea what the next year is going to look like. Even the next 3 months are going to look like. But as long as I have the ability to show up and to, be of service and to share my wisdom and my knowledge and my personal lived experiences along with my professional education and background, I will be here. And so, yeah, how cool is that? I just wanted to start off by sharing that because I think that's important and it's a testament to just everything that I've shared along the way. You have to lean into those things that are nudging at you, right? And I think that's a big part of what I want to talk about today is, and I've shared this in previous episodes, so maybe I won't get too much into that, but I will get into these questions that will reflect a lot on the podcast and my journey. But I was having this intuition feeling of I should start a podcast. I've gotten a lot of feedback over the years about just, being able to articulate myself, being able to speak, being able to ask really good questions. My sister always used to laugh, and I think still sometimes it's like, you ask so many questions and you're so in your story all the time. And I guess that can be good and bad, of course, but I do ask a lot of questions because I'm so genuinely curious. That's where it's coming from. And I've always shared, like, I love to know what makes you tick. I love to know who are you behind your story? Who are you beneath all of the surface level stuff? Because we all are someone. And I love to get to know you on that level. And that's where the question asking comes into play. And I would say I am now starting to own that, especially with the work that I do as well. I've gotten a lot of feedback around my skills as a facilitator, as someone who can hold space, someone who can active listen and reflectively listen and asking the right questions. And so that obviously comes from my professional background and training as a counselor, as an educator, as a coach. And then the personal side of it is I'm genuinely curious, so genuinely curious. And I'm also curious. I want to hold the space for you and also want to empower you, like I said, and inspire you to take back control of your life, of your health, of how you go about in this world, how you're moving in your day to day, because I feel like that's the whole purpose of life. I feel like that's why we're here. We're meant to grow and evolve. We're not meant to stay stuck. And a lot of us are in that space. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was also there. But I think that's the whole process, is that we go through all that, and then it comes to a point where we're honestly so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it's a decision that we have to make. It actually is a choice that we have to make and that we can make. That's where the empowerment comes in, and the liberty is like, we have the power to rewrite our stories. We have the power to create a new reality. Yes, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be so hard. To be so fucking for real, it's the hardest thing that I have ever done. And it is easier to stay stuck. It actually is easier to not do anything at first. But eventually, that's actually really hard too. It's actually harder to stay stuck because when you know, your body knows, your intuition knows, your heart knows, your soul knows that you are meant for more, that it's time to pivot, it's time to shift the way you're moving in life. That's going to keep on happening. It's going to keep on nudging you. And first, it's going to be very subtle until something really big is going to happen and it's going to blow up in our faces. And if you talk to anyone who is on the other side, and I put that in quotes because you're never fully healed or completed, but I mean on the other side of the challenges and the hardships, and you've really turned inwards and have been able to connect with yourself, with your wounds, and being able to overcome them, that is so necessary. I lost my train of thought. That it's going to keep nudging you until something really big happens. And I'll use myself as an example. And you've heard me talk about my vision loss story a lot. It's a big part of why I'm even here today. But I'll give you an example of that, and it'll be relatable to almost everyone. And it relates to health, it relates to career, it relates to knowing that something needs to change. So I was a nursing unit clerk for almost 11 years. And I loved it. It was amazing. It was my first real career, if you will. And I loved it. I worked in a very acute unit and I was really good at my job. And I had a lot of great connections, a lot of really great friendships, and really great team player. I had a lot of good work ethic and I enjoyed it and I loved it. But I started doing that at 19 years old, I think I was. And I knew after several years, I knew there was something more. I just felt this inner something that was nudging me and telling me, you should go back to school. You are capable of doing more. You're capable of getting paid more. You have it in you. Like, this isn't a forever job. This was just meant to be temporary. And it was. It was meant to be temporary. I'm like, I'll do this for a couple of years because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'm not big on school. I'm taking random bullshit classes that don't even do anything for us just to get a degree or a piece of paper. So I was like, I'll do this. I'll take this route. It's a year course and then I will work for a couple of years and then I'll go do something. Of course, that never happened. I was 19 and at that time I was making good money, again, quote unquote. My bills were being paid. I was traveling, I was doing things and it was fine. And every year I kept thinking, okay, Sara, it's time to pivot. Now you've done this for a while. You have a lot of work experience under your belt. It's time to venture out. And honestly, I was in that rat race for almost 11 years. And every time it'd come up, I just got so scared. What am I going to do? I don't want to go back to school. I didn't even know anything about myself. And I didn't know what I liked, what I valued, what kind of work do I want? What kind of lifestyle do I want for myself? And all around me, all you heard was like, get a degree, be a doctor, be a this, be a that. And not within my family, but just generally speaking, right? All these things are just they're on pedestals. And I was like, I'm not smart. And I always felt that about myself. I always just didn't feel like I was smart enough or had anything in me. And at the same time, something was telling me, you need to get out of the hospital. Like, you need to get out of doing this job. This is not a forever job. You're not going to last long in this. And the reason why I'm bringing this up and what's underneath all that was like, it's so easy to get comfortable and stay in that. Again, like I said, I was making decent money. The bills were being paid. I was able to live my life. It was easy. I was good at it. And I had a lot of connections there. And it was great. So I was like, oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just stick it out until it kept coming up. I'm honestly, you guys, saying like years. And I would sort of branch out and start looking, but then my fear would get in the way, the insecurities, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. There's no way I can go back to school at 20 something years old. Like, so ridiculous, but we get so comfortable, even though we know we've outgrown it. So needless to say, I outgrew that job so many years before I even went off. And you know what happened, to my point of the universe, God is going to keep nudging you and presenting you with circumstances or experiences or situations or hardships until you actually wake up. And for me, you know what it was? What it took for me to wake up and be like, I'm not meant to do this, be stuck in a dead-end 9-to-5 job for the rest of my life. I lost my driver's license. My vision progressed to the worst it had ever been. And I was forced out of that job because of my health. I was no longer able to do that job because my health was so bad and deteriorated so much that that was the big blow up that happened for me, that woke me and broke me wide open. And obviously in a very traumatic way, in a very grief way, my whole life collapsed. But and it also opened me to a whole new world, a whole new possibility of what was possible on the other side. God nudging me, my soul nudging me, my intuition saying, Sara, there's more for you. You're not meant to be a unit clerk for the rest of your life. You're meant to evolve and grow. You're meant to be of service to the world in a different way. You have a voice, you can speak, you have a story that is powerful beyond words, as we all do. And it took for me to leave that job. And again, my health forced me to leave that job in a really traumatic, progressive way. And I reflect back, there were so many moments. I can pinpoint so many times, not even just with career, just other things where I felt very insecure. I had no confidence. So many things that were coming through. And I look back, I'm like, holy shit. God was like, hello, wake up, make a move. And I didn't. I just sat there and I stayed comfortable. And as a lot of you do, and again, it's not wrong, it's not right, it's not anything, it just is. And I think when that happens, we have to really slow down and turn inwards and really ask ourselves, are you living the life that you are wanting to live, that you are meant to live? Is there room for growth and transformation? And we're all meant to do that. We're not meant to stay stuck. And society has programmed us like that. Just the way our world runs, there's so much pressure from family and from higher authorities and this and that. And there's so much programming that happens when we are younger and all this stuff. But we're not meant to live this life that we're living right now. I am so against Monday to Friday. I did that for almost 11 years. I was at the hospital working as a unit clerk for 10 and a half, close to almost 11 years when I went off in June 22nd, 2018. This is why June 22nd is such a significant date for me and why I decided to launch the Story Hour podcast on that day, because it was so pivotal. It was the absolute worst day of my life. Like, I wanted to just die. And I say that because that is the honest truth. I felt like my whole world just collapsed and that was it. It's like I hit the bottom of the pit. And it was the best day of my life because it brought me to where I am today. None of this, what's happened in the last 8 years, I guess it's been officially 8 years now on the 22nd, none of this, everything that I've done and accomplished and just who I am as a person would have not happened if the events of June 2018 didn't happen. If I passed that test and I didn't lose my license and my vision was at bay and everything was great and I wasn't struggling at work, honestly, I kid you guys not, I would still probably be in that dead end 9-to-5 job that I loved and it was great, but by the end of it, it was not okay. It was just, I could do it in the back of my hand and it just wasn't for me anymore. So I look back at that and I'm like, holy crap, like so many times, so many moments, so many things where God was like, Sara, you got to move. You got to do something. It's going to be hard, but you got to do it. You can't stay where you are. Growth doesn't happen. Change doesn't happen if you don't make different choices. And it took for this big thing to happen. And that's why I always say it was the worst day of my life, but it was the best day of my life. And I can hold both of those. Obviously, I've overcome it. I've dealt with it. I've healed it. I'm like, it is what it is. Like that specific moment and experience, obviously I still grieve my vision, but that moment, I've done a lot of therapy around that. I've worked through it and I'm like, but it also brought me to where I am. This is why I'm a huge believer in post-traumatic growth. I thought my life was over. I wanted to die. I didn't leave my room. I didn't leave my house. I slept all day just because I didn't want to be awake, because when I'm awake, I'm thinking about it. Or at least when I'm sleeping, I'm numb to all the pain and to all the grief and to all the trauma and all the heartache and all the disbelief and shock and everything that goes on with that I've shared plenty throughout, these last 8 years. I would still probably be in similar situations if I didn't make different choices, if I didn't listen to my intuition and my heart, knowing that something's pulling me in a different direction. And so the purpose of this is for me sharing that if you're in a career that you hate or that you don't like, and I know there's a lot of you out there that are like that and you're comfortable because it pays the bills, you're making good money, or maybe you're not even making good money, but you're in that job because you're like, well, I've been doing this for X amount of years. Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? It's too late. I'm too old. I don't care if you're 50, 60, 70, you can rewrite your story. You can go back to school. You can do whatever you want. We've just been put these limitations and we're programmed by that. Society's like that. And if you're talking or surrounding yourself with people who are just Debbie Downers and and who tell you all this negative stuff, because all we've known is that hustle bustle vicious cycle of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I'm talking about career, obviously, in this specific reason. I spent almost 3 hours in commute by the end of it. At the beginning, when I started in 2019, traffic wasn't fine and the population was way less. So it actually was okay. But by the end of it, I was spending minimum 3 hours a day in traffic, an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. And if it was really bad weather, like plus 3+ hours. So ridiculous. And I didn't have a life. I was just working to live. And I always knew inside that was not for me. I hated it. I hated it so much by the end of it. And the other thing was getting time off was so hard. And I know this isn't for everyone because a lot of people do have a lot of flexibility in their Monday to Fridays. I worked in a hospital, so I worked in an acute unit. I could not get vacation unless my shift was normally covered. There was the odd time I got it off, but if I wanted a weekend off, whether to go away for the weekend or to just have a day off, if it was like a Friday or a Monday, I'd have to request for vacation. I couldn't get peak time off because we put our vacation in the year prior and you go by seniority. So I never got the peak times unless I was really lucky. All that stuff, that's not how we're meant to live. I don't believe that for a second. I think we need to change that. It's horrendous. It's crazy. I have a lot of, I think, just like angst about that, and I knew it wasn't for me, and I do not want that. I don't want that for myself. And I rewrote my story. I got to a point of where I am now, and to really understand my values and my wants and my desires and how I want to move in this life. And so all that to say, I don't even know how I got into that now, but obviously I'm very passionate about that, and it's been coming up a lot about that. And again, this is why I'm here launch this podcast, is to really share all of that and really to push you a little bit to make changes in your life. Only you know. And I can tell you, you 100% know if you've outgrown something. You'll feel it. And that's why I talk a lot about turning inwards, a lot about being present, a lot about all the mindfulness practices that gets you in your body and gets you to slow down and to really ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? Am I living it to the fullest? And if all of that, what I shared, is great for you, you love a Monday to Friday, you like the 9 to 5 grind, you like having only 2 days off, and you're making good money or your bills are being paid or whatever it is, then so be it. Then that's what you enjoy doing. But I'm talking to the people who actually are like, no, this is not for me. That is not the way to live. I do not believe that for 1 second. Life is way too short. We need to prioritize what really feels good to us and how we can live that life and still be a member of society, but also really prioritizing ourselves and our health and our wellness and all of that. So that was a bit of a tangent. Not a tangent, but that was, I guess, just wanted to share that because it's a big part of the Story Hour podcast. Let's just jump in. The questions that were asked, and I hope this is helpful. I hope you get to know me a little bit better. Maybe that you don't know something about me already, or maybe you are new here. And so I guess if you are new here, maybe I'll do an introduction. I'm Sara. I am a lover of life, of the human experience. I'm deeply passionate about talking about grief and loss and death and dying and using that to really live fulfilling lives, to bring meaning back into our lives. I think death is our greatest teacher. So I do that professionally. I'm a registered counselor and a certified grief educator and a certified life coach. I run a private practice. I contract with some nonprofits and support individuals with grief and loss. And I just feel really passionate about the education piece of it. That's a really big part of it. I love to connect with you. I love to hold space, and grief is meant to be done in community and in connection. And yeah, that's a bit about me professionally. Personally, hobbies, I love being outdoors. I am so tanned already. I always get so many comments about, have you been somewhere? I'm like, no, just my patio. It's summer here. I'm in Vancouver. So I love being outside, love being in nature, love ecotherapy, love being by the ocean. I love reading. If you follow me on social media, you know my obsession for reading. I picked up reading about last year. It's been a year and a half now, and I'm obsessed. I love learning. I love growing. I love nonfiction. I love fiction. I love just books that can teach us. And I'm really big on personal development, self-development, and also professional development. So if you see my bookshelf over here, it's jam-packed. It was completely empty last January. I just decided to pick it up. I wanted to do something new, create a new hobby, something to pass my time. And honestly, it helps a lot with my grief and my anxiety is reading. And a lot of them are professional development books, business-related books. And then there's a lot of nonfiction books like memoirs. And then there's a lot of fiction in there as well. I love a good rom-com. I love books just about life, and just they teach us so much. And I'm also part of a book club now, my first book club. And if you knew me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, I was not a reader at all. At all. But I am obsessed, and I have a competition with myself. Last year, my goal was to read 12 books a year. So I thought one book a month. That should be doable for someone who's never really read before. And I ended up reading 44 books in 2025. So happy and so just grateful for that experience. I have a lot of cousins, and my sister, they're avid readers, so it was nice to just connect. My best friend also got into reading, and so we always laugh because we're like, oh my gosh, we've been friends for 20 plus years, and we used to party and drink and never be home, and now we're all big time readers, and it's so great. It's amazing. And then this year I have a goal as well. So I have a monthly goal and then a yearly goal. So I'm in competition with myself. And so I'm doing pretty good so far, but that's another hobby. I love hiking. I love being active, being outside, just walking. I like moving my body as it helps me to process my emotions, but also move the emotions. We know emotions are stored, their energy in our body, and the only way to get them going is to move them through and out. I love to creative write. If you follow me, I do blog. I love to just share my journey and my life and articulate myself and the world and my views and my perspectives. And then I love speaking. I love facilitation. A big part of the role that I do in my professional work is group facilitation, and I love it. And then, speaking. Speaking has always been, not always actually, but it's something that I just really realized, I think probably because of social media, because when I started this whole new career and the business aspect of things, and then showing up on social media, I was forced into having to make videos of myself and talk and speak and articulate and formulate words for what I was feeling in my heart. And so I think I just got used to that, and then I just started to enjoy it. And then again, going back to I really love getting to know you on a soul level. So question asking. And so that's where the podcast obviously falls into play, because I just love speaking. I think that's about it for me. Besides everything else you already know, let's jump right into the first question. What do you think you were really trying to understand about life when you started this podcast? That's a good question. Honestly, I think it's just what I just shared and what I have been sharing. I don't think I was trying to really understand something per se in terms of the podcast. It goes back to, I really want to know people on a soul level, on a deeper level than just surface level. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know what your upbringing was like. What was your childhood like? How did those experiences shape you to be who you are today? What challenges did you face? What were some things that you accomplished and that were great, that you were good at? I want to know all of that, and not even on a professional level. Obviously, it makes sense that I'm a counselor because all of that is so relatable, but I've always been like that. I guess it always makes sense. I was always meant to be a counselor. I think what I was trying to understand is, just to get to know people. What are the things that we have shared experiences in? And I want to learn. I like to grow and evolve, as you all know. And the best way to do that is by getting to know other people, people who aren't in your circles, people who have different stories than you, people who look different than you, people who are of different age and ethnicity and background. That to me is so cool. And so I think that was what the big purpose was around. There's a lot of big purposes, but that was a big part of it. How can I get to know more people, and how can I understand life and look at it from a different perspective than my own biased perspective? Because we all have bias, right? We're operating from a system. Each of us has a different system based on our upbringing, our childhood, our family life, our trauma, our grief, our suffering, our schooling, our education, who we surround ourselves with. All of that matters. And I think it's so fascinating to sit across from someone and really get to know them. So that's what I was trying to understand, I think, when it comes to the podcast. Number 2, what has surprised you most about what people respond to in the stories you've shared? I think not really surprised, I would say. I think what I would say to that is, a lot of times people say, you're so strong, you're so resilient, this and that. And to that, I just want to say, there are so many times where I don't feel like that, where I don't feel strong, I don't feel resilient. And I know this is a bigger conversation because some people say, I had no choice. And it is true. I had no choice but to be strong. The opposite of that is not, but then I wouldn't be where I am in life today, right? We have a choice. And I think that surprised me a lot. And the other thing that, I guess this doesn't really answer the question, but didn't really surprise me, because I knew that about myself. And I think it just took me a long time, how many 30 plus years to figure it out. But, I have a really big heart. And I think just the way I share and speak, and I've always been rooted in wanting to get to know people on a deeper level. I'm very big on the emotional intelligence and being emotionally supported, but also emotionally supporting other people. And so I get a lot of feedback. Thank you for your heart and your vulnerability. And I see that now because I am very vulnerable and I share aspects of my story. So yeah, I don't know if that answered that question, but that's what I would say to that. 3, what kind of stories have stayed with you the longest? And why do you think that is? I think all of them, to be honest. So many stories. Again, it goes back to, what was your life like? What was the pain? What was the suffering? What did you have to go through to get to where you are? And the premise of the podcast and the people who come on are people who have overcome really challenging things in life. And that's the whole purpose of the podcast, right? Is to really empower you that you can overcome anything if you put your mind, heart, and soul into it. It's not going to be easy, but it's possible. So if you've been listening from the beginning and you've heard the stories of the guests that have come on, they've all gone through some really traumatic, painful things. And they were able to overcome that. So bringing them on. So each story, there's stories about obviously vision loss. There's stories about parent loss. I had Tara on here, who was the one that actually was the last nudge for me to launch the podcast. Shout out to you, Tara. Lost both of her parents within 6 months span. That really stayed with me too. And gosh, God bless Tara. I think about it now, and I've shared this before. I have a debilitating fear of losing my parents. And so that story really stuck. Someone else who had lost parent figures. There's so much out there. People with health. I just had someone on that dealt with chronic health for 16 years before they got diagnosed, before the medical system actually paid attention to them. Those stories, everything, each story is so unique in its own. There's parallels, of course, but I learned so much from others. How did they cope? What was that like? Because I know how I cope. I know what I've gone through and what my clients go through, but it's so nice to be able to hear that from someone else's worldview and perspective. That's why we're here. We're not meant to be the same, you guys. We're meant to be different. How has your understanding of grief evolved through a year of holding space for other people's stories? I think that piggybacks off of what I was just saying. I only know what I know. And of course, personally, I can really speak from a non death loss perspective very thoroughly, very accurately, and to my own experience. Obviously, vision loss, I very much can talk to you about that all day, every day, and non death losses. And so there's people that come on here that have different types of losses than me. And even though I'm also trained and educated in counseling and education and coaching, I'm not specialized in each different type of loss. There's a lot of losses that I actually don't really know about and that I wouldn't be able to support someone with. And that's where I would refer them out. Like, I don't know much about suicide, if at all. There was a family member that died by suicide, but I don't know much about it. I don't know much about addiction. I don't know much about even like sudden traumatic loss, really. And so there's so many things that I've learned just through, not just through the podcast, but listening to other podcasts and the different types of losses, the different types of grief. And it's so complex. I understand that and I know that, obviously, personally and professionally. But when you hear other people share and you hear their grief and their take on it and their perspective and their lived experience with it, like, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And so I find that really fascinating. I love, even on TikTok a lot, I don't know why TikTok, probably because of the algorithm, it picks up a lot of grief content. And I love it. I sit there and watch it. I'll listen to it. Podcasts, I'll listen and watch and learn. And so there's always constant learning. And I'm always growing. I'm always evolving. Like I said, none of us know everything. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. But this is where the passion lies, is to understand it more. What part of your grief do you still find hardest to articulate out loud? I have shared a lot. Even when I launched the very first episode, I took you guys in a lot of depth and intimacy around my story, around vision loss. I've also shared it in a blog type post many years ago on social media. The really raw, the realness of it, the mental health aspect of it. To answer that question, what do I still find hard? I think even though I've spoken to this in aspects and situations, I think I still find it a little bit hard, or I feel like I'm going to be judged or looked at a different way, is how dark it actually really gets. I don't think people actually understand unless you've in it, unless you've experienced profound, deep grief and loss. You won't understand it. And so with that, I have a hard time. And, you know, there's so many, I've shared this before, but there are plenty of on your hands and knees God moments. And you're in so much despair. You're just like, you want to die, to be honest. And I have shared that in certain contexts, and I don't mean that as in a suicidal way. I am not suicidal by any means, not even close. I love life way too much, no matter what. I know I can overcome anything. That's not even a question or thought. So just want to throw that out there. But I think, and I'm not the only one, when you're going through really profound grief, you want to die. You don't want to be alive because it's so painful. It's so painful. It takes over your whole body. And we know that. It rewires your entire brain chemistry. It changes your whole thought pattern, your nervous system. Every inch of you, every single inch of you has just shifted. You are not the same. There is a before grief and there is an after grief. And it is absolutely gut-wrenching. So I think that part of it, I don't share as openly or as deeply. And I think that's okay, because there are a lot of parts of my stories that I keep sacred, that I keep to myself, that I don't really share. I don't think everything's meant to be shared. I share a lot and I'm okay with that. But there's a lot I don't. And so that piece of it, I think I find a little bit hard. I'm a lot better, I would say, at that now, just because I think where I'm at and because I know it's such a real thing just with the work that I do and the conversations that I have online and offline. You just want the pain to go away. And that's really hard. So I'll leave that at that. Who are you now compared to who you were when you recorded the first episode? When I recorded that first episode, I was scared, I was nervous, and I was excited. I knew I was supposed to do this. It had been going on for like a year and a half, 2 years maybe, that you should start a podcast. You should do this. You're really good at speaking. You're really good at asking questions. You love to connect with people. This will just be an addition to what you're already doing personally and professionally. It's a way to build community. I am so big on community. And so I just think from then, because I had all the mixed fear and all of that, and then the excitement, I think I'm a lot more confident. I would say, who am I now? I am confident. I am more skilled. I've gone through a lot. I've learned a lot. Anything you start in life that's new is a learning curve. And so I am proud of myself. Very, very proud. And I own that and I wear that and I scream that from the rooftops because I never thought I could do it. And if you're someone who struggles with insecurities and thinking you're not smart enough, thinking you're not good enough, thinking that you can't amount to anything, you know how deep that pride runs. And I am all about celebrating that, celebrating our wins, celebrating our accomplishments. And so I can just feel the difference. I still get nervous when I hit record, even with guests. I always check in with the guests beforehand. How are you feeling? How are you doing? And then they're like, oh, I'm kind of nervous, but I'm okay. And I'm like, to be very transparent, so am I. I don't know what it is about hitting the record button that does something to me sometimes, not always. And I share that with guests too, because you and me both, but once you start the conversation and it gets rolling, everything's all fine. I think it's just a fact of like, okay, this is going to be in the public. So I think just all of that. I feel as with age and more life behind you, you start to really stop caring about what other people think as much. You are just so rooted and grounded in who you are. And to see the growth and transformation and the evolution of myself from 1 year ago to now, I'm just really happy and I'm just really grateful. And I even think about my younger versions of me, my 12-year-old self, my 16-year-old self, my 20, even my 30. And I'm just really proud of everything that her and I have been through. And there was always obviously something internally, soulfully nudging me, even though I didn't listen. I listen now. And so I'm just really grateful for that. So I feel like I am a very different person, but also very much the same as well. What version of yourself do you feel you've outgrown over the past year? Yeah, so secondary to what I just shared, I think the version of myself is not really caring as much what other people think. I've definitely let go and brought my perfectionism down quite a bit. I'm still feel like I have it. I think we all kind of do, maybe to a certain extent. So that I feel like I've outgrown a bit. I used to be so nitpicky and, this and that and blah, 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 especially when you're putting it out into the world and onto social media, like everything has to be perfect. And I'm actually not so much like that. Obviously, I pay attention to detail. I'm very much like that. And I think that is important, but that's different than the perfectionism. And so I think I've outgrown that a bit. And honestly, one thing, and this isn't just in the past year, but this has been a journey for 8 years when everything had started, is that I'm not so hyper-focused on what do I look like. And I mean, of course, I love getting dressed up. I love, this is so fun. You want to look good, you feel good. I love doing my makeup. I love getting dressed and being out of sweatpants and, whatever. But what I've realized is that I've outgrown that version of me that always felt like I had to be put on to be on social media. I used to always, this is 8 years prior, I was very insecure. If you are on my social media, you know that I have really dark under circles and I've had them my entire life. Since I was born, since I was younger. I look back at baby pictures and they were dark. Obviously they've gotten darker over the years, but I've always had that. So it's not a lack of nutrition. It's not anything. It's just, I think it's probably family, genetics, whatever. I've always had it. And to my surprise, I actually, when I was at the Ayurvedic eye hospital in India, I asked them, do you have anything that can help? Any oil, any ointment, anything that can help lessen the dark circles? And they told me that we can try, but likely not. You've had this your whole life, and it probably has to do with the progression of your vision. That also probably has something to do with it. And so I was very, 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 very insecure about them. I would never go anywhere without having concealer on. I'd feel so embarrassed if I was out and about. Like, I wouldn't even leave my house like that. And if I had to, I hated it. But now in the last 8 years, I let that go because that's a part of me. I can't change that. I've tried using oils and stuff. It just doesn't work. My eyes are just really dark. And so that's something that over the years, and more so in the last year, that I've let that go. And I show up on camera, on social media without having makeup on. And I think that's so needed, especially with all this aging and beauty and skincare and all that garbage that we're being fed. I don't buy into any of that, to be honest. A lot of it's obviously toxic as well, which is a whole other conversation. But no, this is who I am. I have wrinkles. I have gray hair. The gray hair, obviously, I'm not fully comfortable with that, but it is what it is. So I started to give less shits about that kind of stuff and just really be grateful for the body and the life that God has given me. Where do you still feel like you are becoming? Oh, wow. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Where do you still feel like you are becoming? This is such an interesting question, and it's so timely because honestly, right now, I feel like I am on the precipice of who I was and who I'm becoming. And I'm in this very big transition period with certain aspects of my life that I'm not going to really get into, and I'll share at a later time when I feel ready. But I feel like I am becoming so much more rooted and grounded in who I am. I'm so much more confident, authentic, and just real with myself first. And then that's how I portray and how I show up in the world, is that true, authentic, confident self. This has taken me a long time, 8 years. I started the healing journey 8 years ago when everything fell apart. And I've done everything under the sun to really work on myself and all that stuff. And that is, I feel like, who I've already become, and I'm still becoming. There's obviously still room. There's always room, right? Again, the more we age every year that passes by, the more life we have behind us, the more wisdom we have. And actually, I was just talking to my cousins the other day about this, about being in your 40s. And I've heard this a lot from other people, is that when you hit your 40s, you really, truly don't give a shit about anything other than yourself and your family and your friends and the things that matter to you, other people's opinions, just other things that don't really matter that we usually in our 20s and in our teenage years, even in your 30s, you hyper focus on. I've heard, and I feel that because I will be 40 next year, that those things stop mattering. I even shared in my birthday post, I've turned 39, and so I'm 39 now, and I am the most rooted and grounded in who I am as a person. Who is Sara? Who am I? What are my values? What are my non-negotiables? With just everything. What kind of lifestyle do I want to build and continue to build for myself? I am so rooted in that. Obviously, things are going to change. I'm going to change. I'm going to grow. Things are going to pivot. But the point being is, I feel like that's who I'm becoming. I'm becoming more and more like myself. I always say it's a homecoming. We were always who we're meant to be. When we're born and we're brought into this world, we are the purest of pure. Our soul is pure. We are pure. But as the years go on, we are programmed by, it's just the way life is, by the school system, by our parents, the way our parents operate and raise us. Like, that all matters. That plays a part in how we show up in the world. World events, family, friends, all of it. That shapes us to be who we are. But when we're born, we are the most pure. And so I always say it's a homecoming. I feel like I've come back home to myself because I was always like this from a younger age. There's so many moments I'm like, yeah, I've always been wanting connection, wanting to be emotionally supported, and just the way I am, like my values and stuff. I just feel like there's always been an undercurrent of that my whole life for 39 years. But it took until something happened for me to really, truly find myself. And that's what I was referring to at the beginning of this episode. So That's who I'm becoming. I'm becoming more rooted and grounded and more confident, more self-assured. And I feel that I can see it. I can feel it in my body. And I'm really happy about that. I'm really proud about that. What parts of your story do you now feel more permission to share than you did a year ago? Yeah, I guess what I shared earlier about when you're in those moments of despair, when everything is just black and dark, that there's moments where you want to die. And again, you don't want to kill yourself, but you just wish that something were to happen and that the pain would just go away. And those are really normal thoughts. And again, like I said, I know I'm not the only one. I've had many conversations. And that doesn't mean that you're suicidal. That's just the trauma and the pain and the grief and the suffering that is speaking in those moments. It's not you. It's not your pure soul. That's the other stuff. The fear, the sense of control. If we think of it, there are parts of us. If we can visualize that, we're us, but then there's all these parts. You have fear, control, self-doubt, and then you have grief, trauma, and then you have fear of the unknown. Like you think of them as their own little entities. That's what's speaking to you in those moments where you're like, I just want to die. Take the pain away. And so I feel a lot more comfortable now speaking to it, but again, I don't feel 100% because a lot of times things can get so misconstrued as well. And so I tread lightly a little bit, but I also, the whole point of me sharing my story is to be relatable, right? And I enjoy it so much when people share openly and authentically and rawly. I enjoy that when I watch other people's podcasts or listen to anything else or hear someone speak in person or just in connection. I appreciate that because so many of us are numb. We're numb to our feelings. We're numb to our emotions. We're numb to whatever's happening. And my mission and goal is to, obviously professionally, is to unpack that with you, to get to that part of that. So that's what I would say for that I have more permission. The other thing that comes up when I think about that is my connection with my parents and that debilitating fear that I've shared. I shared it in a blog post and I think even in a previous episode that I'm really afraid of losing my parents. I won't get into that whole story because it is in a previous episode, but I think I had a lot of shame around that, to be honest. I'm 39 and it's still like I long for my parents and in certain seasons of life and all that. And we've worked really hard to get to where we are, our relationship with me, my mom, my dad. And as the years go on, the older that I'm getting, and then obviously the older they're getting, I have this crippling fear of losing them. And what am I going to do without them? And so that was something that I held very close to my heart for a while, but I just recently started to open that up. And on that note too, I'll share, a lot of times when I speak to things, I speak to them much later. I usually take the time to process them, to marinate in them, to figure it out on my own before I usually open up the conversation. Not always. Sometimes there's things that might be really present and I feel like sharing, but most of the time I've been navigating whatever I'm sharing for a long time, months, even years. So the thing about my parents has been going on for, I'd say, about 2 years. It all started when my mom's mom, my grandma, maternal grandma, passed away in May 2024. I'm watching my mom grieve her mom, and my dad's parents are both passed away now. My grandma's death just did something to me because watching my mom grieve her mom, and my mom's 60 years old, just fucking broke me. It broke me in a million pieces. And so I kind of got a first eye glimpse of what that's going to look like for me. And that's really hard, but that's something I'm becoming more comfortable speaking about. What is it like for you to be the one holding space rather than being fully held? Well, I think it's amazing because I'm a counselor, you guys, if you didn't catch that already. I sit with people all the time professionally. I hold space all the time for people to come and to share their stories and to unpack whatever's going on for them, to really work with them, to see where they need support with. So it's been great. That's what I'm saying. Everything is just so interconnected. I've always been meant to do this. Even at a younger age in high school, I was never into school, to be fully honest. Even in high school, I just didn't really care. I didn't have the smarts in that way, quote unquote, right? I'm a very smart person, but not when it came to that type of education. I was never interested in it because it's bullshit. We get taught stuff that doesn't even matter. Half of it's false. There's so many things. It's a whole other conversation. But I just was never into it. And so I remember thinking, in CAP, is it career and personal planning? I think that was the course's name in high school. What does your next 5 years look like? What does your 10 years? What do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, I don't know, but I always knew I wanted to be in the helping profession. So early on, but I just never pinpointed that. And I'm like, well, counseling was never on my radar. Never, never. It was literally, I think, a year or even 6 months that when I was off, I couldn't go back to being a unit clerk, that I was like, okay, what can I do? And someone had mentioned, oh, what about this? And I was like, what's coaching? I had no idea what coaching was. And then I looked into the program and they offered counseling. I was like, oh, this is cool. And it wasn't until I was 30, I graduated 4 years ago. I'm 39. I was 34 when I started school again, you guys. So yeah, I've always had this innate ability to hold space and to be with people in their hardest moments, and also to really have open, raw conversations. And so what it's like, it's been great. I love doing this. I love getting to know you on a soul level and a deeper level, share your stories and challenges. And also I love to be held. I do see a therapist. I'm not seeing one right now, but I do see a therapist, and it's actually really amazing to have someone then in return hold space for you. And it's like that time is reserved just for you. And so that's really special too. So it goes both ways. What do you think people most need when they share something deeply personal? Exactly what I was sharing. People want to be seen. People want to be heard. People want to be validated. People want to be valued. People want connection. People want relatability. People want community. People want connection. All of that, plus some, is what people need when they share something deeply personal. They want someone to sit across from them or beside them and say, I'm sorry you're going through a hard time. This is really hard. I'm so sorry. I am here for you. That is what people are wanting. What they don't want is they don't want to be fixed. I speak a lot about this in the grief world and in grief work. Is people don't want to be fixed. People don't want your toxic positivity. People don't want, okay, well, what's the meaning in that? Oh, your person died? Oh, I wonder what the meaning is, find meaning in their death. No. Don't tell people to just get over it. Don't tell people to just move on. Don't invalidate people in their experiences. You may not understand it. You may not even agree with it, but you can still validate that what they are feeling is what they're feeling. That's what people want. And yeah, there's obviously so much nuance with that, but people don't want that. So that's what people want, is they want connection. They want relatability. They want a sense of community. They want healing. They want presence. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. Most people have never shared their deepest, darkest selves with anyone. But isn't that kind of weird? We're all human. We all are the same, and we're all brought here in the same way. Isn't that weird that we don't have that level of connection? And sometimes it's not until you're like 40 years old for the first time that you had someone where you felt safe. That's another thing. People want safety to open up and to share, even if it's not even the deepest, darkest, but it could be just emotions that they're feeling that they've never felt safe enough to express to someone, never felt heard, or, just to be held in our vulnerability. That's what people are looking for. And this is why I do what I do. To reiterate that for the millionth time, this is why I'm so passionate about it. This is my why. If you're still wondering what my why is and why I do videos and why I do work and why this and that, this is why. Because we need it more than ever, you guys. More than ever, we are lacking connection, which is crazy, because in a world that feels like there's plenty of opportunity to connect, we are the most disconnected as we have ever been in this lifetime. And that's disconnected from ourselves first, and then disconnected from everyone around us. These things that we carry around everywhere, this is the problem. They are disconnecting us. And that's why actually having real life human to human conversation is so important. And that's what people are looking for, is that. How has this work shaped your understanding of loneliness? Again, connection, 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 connection. People want connection. People are suffering alone. People are isolated. People think that no one else is going through anything as horrendous as they are. And that's not the case. Everyone is going through something or another. It's going to look vastly different from the person next to you and the person across from you. But we're all struggling with something. And this is why it's the premise of the Story Hour podcast. Voices unscripted, stories rewritten. For us to sit here and share our stories. That's why it's called the Story Hour podcast, is because we're here to share our stories. We're here to feel less alone. And just like we are so disconnected collectively, we are also very lonely collectively as well, across the board. And that's a big problem. There's so much, it's a loneliness epidemic. We have a mental health epidemic right now and have for the last 6 years, I would say. And that's not acceptable. That's not okay. And so this work has really honestly just propelled me to keep going, to keep showing up. Whether it's 0 people that listen or whether it's 200 people that listen to the show or to what I'm sharing. It all matters. It all matters. The energy you put out into the world, the gifts that you share, the wisdom, the teachings, it all matters. This is how collective healing happens. It's one by one, one by one. You, me, them, the person beside us, our neighbors, our friends, our family, our colleagues, our coworkers, our kids, you name it. Each of us has a factor in all of this. It makes a difference. And so we need to start understanding people beneath the surface, beneath what they look like, who they are, how much money they make, what job they do, whatever it is. We need to start connecting with people on a deeper level. The amount of suicide that has skyrocketed in the last X amount of years it's so unacceptable. People are so alone. So all of that has shaped the work that I do, both outside of the podcast and the podcast. This is why I keep going. There's days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. It's too much work. But then I'm like, no, Sara, your voice is needed. Your show isn't needed. Your conversations are needed. Your wisdom is needed. Your heart is needed in the world. And so all of that to say is that I also struggle with loneliness. If you've been following me, you listen to me, I am lonely a lot too. I'm single. I live by myself. I'm very deeply, deeply longing for a husband, a partner. I want to have kids. And I go through bouts of loneliness. And especially when you're dealing with grief too, and no one around you really can understand it, it's really hard. You feel very alone. I have an amazing support system. I talk about them often. My parents, my siblings, my friends, my extended family, my online community, even people who I've never met in person, but we are connected online. I have such an amazing support system, and I still feel lonely at times. Because when you're in those moments of darkness and despair, you feel so isolated. This is why I want to bring these stories to the forefront to allow you to listen to and to understand that you're not alone. What you're going through is obviously unique to you, but we're all going through something. And it honestly makes it less heavy when you know other people are also going through something too. How has your relationship with waiting, quote, waiting for love, change, clarity shifted this year? These are interesting. They're so timed back to back, but I talk a lot about waiting, and I guess speaking to being single, I'm desperately wanting to meet my husband. Like, come on, I'm 39. How many more years do I have to wait, God? Seriously, husband, where are you? So I think it shifted in a way that obviously I still feel that. I'm laughing, but I genuinely sometimes I'll pray to God, God, please send me my husband, or husband, I'm waiting for you. But I think my relationship is stop waiting and start living. If you watched my birthday episode, I shared about that. I feel like I'm always waiting and not living to my fullest potential, or I'm living in so much fear of the unknown or anxiety about so many things, and even a lot of grief of the future, grief of the life I envision for myself, but I'm not having, the dreams that I have that are not coming to fruition. And so I realized stop waiting and start living. And so I'm really trying to use that to help me live a more free, fulfilling life, because I can't change the timeline of anything. That's in God's hand. I can do what I'm doing. I can put myself out there. I can share with family and friends, whatever it is, but I can't change what God has planned for me. And I'm a firm believer in that. Those are things out of my control. I think it's just helped me to pay closer attention to where am I waiting and versus living. And so that's been a really big, I guess, question that I've been sitting with and using that as fuel to then live a better life. When has it felt most difficult to show up for this podcast, and why did you keep going? So again, back to what I was saying, it's very hard. It's a lot of work. Sorry, not hard. It's a lot of work. It's like running a full-time business or a full-time job. I've heard people say that before. Obviously, I knew that, but not to the extent. Until you're in it, you don't realize that. I'm a one-woman show. I'm the creator, I'm the host, I'm the producer, I'm the editor, I'm the social media marketer. I am all of it. And like I said before, I'm very proud of figuring it out as I went along, and I'm not very tech savvy. Also with my vision loss, it's a lot to be sitting on the computer and figuring out all these things because I need a lot of breaks. I can't be on the screen for that long. Right now I'm talking, so it's different. I'm not having to read anything. I don't have to pay attention to anything. But when I am doing stuff like that, then it takes a lot of eye strength and pressure and strain for me to focus. And so those moments, I want to throw in the towel. What did I get myself into? Why am I doing this? This is so hard. I don't love the editing, because this part's easy, the talking and even having guests on here, having that conversation. The editing is like, oh, I wish I could just snap my finger and have everything done the way I want it. Like I said, I do use AI in certain aspects, but I always double check because I don't trust AI fully. And AI is just so generic and robotic. I want it to be me. I want my heart in it. I don't want it to just be the same as everyone else. And I hate the dopamine hits, attention grabbing. If you notice the clips that I'm pulling, they're full conversations. Obviously not long because social media doesn't operate like that, but generally speaking, I'll walk you through my process quickly. So yeah, creating the content. What is the topic going to be? What am I going to talk about? What do I want to pull from it? What do I want to encourage listeners to take away from this episode? And then if I have a guest on, so to walk you through what it's like to be on the Story Hour podcast, I have a full conversation. It's basically like, I wouldn't say consultation because that doesn't fit, but I have a video call with the guest and we talk about, I get them to tell me their story. I'm using my counseling and my coaching skills in those calls. I'm asking you about your life. I'm pulling the story out of you from what you're sharing and also what you've overcome and how you've overcome that. And I have a conversation with you. And so a lot of my counseling and coaching skills are in those sessions. And then from there, I will take that conversation, the notes I've taken, and then I will come up with questions that I feel are going to be relevant and prevalent, things that I'm curious about that I also think that will be relatable and other people can connect with. So then I take all those notes, take what they've shared with me, and then I compose questions. And I like to do it strategically, starting off with the introduction and their story, and then start off with the challenges. What was that like? What did you go through? What's the mental, emotional health? Like pulling so much from there and then working towards the post-traumatic growth aspect of it. How did you overcome that? What is some advice you'd give to others? What are some tools or practices that you incorporate into your life that can be a help for other people? And then ending with something on a positive note. So I'm doing that all on my own. No one is helping me. I am doing that. I am using my brain power and my skills and my heart to compose that. And then we record the episode. I'm not one of those people that cuts off after an hour mark. I don't like that. I hate the short clips on social media too, because there's nothing in there and it's literally a hook or attention grab. And so I personally don't like that. And I don't cut off my episodes at an hour like, oh, hey, we should wrap up now. Obviously, I'm mindful of the time, of course. but I don't have a strong end time. So I really want to get to know you and get deep, and an hour is not enough sometimes, depending on what the conversation is, and sometimes they are. But if you're going really deep and I have a lot of questions I want to ask and I want to get to know you, and not for me, but for you, then it's sometimes an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 40, whatever it is. So then the recording is done, hallelujah, things are great. Then you have to go to edit that. So the platform that I use is amazing. So it has obviously records the video and then it records the transcript of the audio. And then I go in there and I edit the entire episode. I actually go in there and I edit it and I make sure it flows. I make sure there's no glitches or anything. And then while I'm doing that, editing the full episode, I'm also thinking about pulling clips for social media, because you need to market the podcast. How else are people going to know if you're not sharing it on social media? And so then while I'm editing it and making sure it's all great, then I'm also thinking about what would people want to hear from this episode? How can I market this? What's going to be relatable? What's going to connect with people? What do I want to pull out and share on social media to promote the episode? That takes a lot. So then you're doing that, and then you're editing that composition. And then from there, you're downloading it all. You're uploading onto all the different platforms. You have to create a Canva image for YouTube, show notes. You are then doing captions for your social media clips. And then you're doing all of that. And then you have to upload them to social media. So I have them on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And you have to do them 3 separate times. So for some reason, my Facebook and my Instagram aren't connecting. So I have to upload on Instagram, and then I save that video, and then I upload it to TikTok, and then I upload it to Facebook. That is the whole process from beginning to end, probably more, but that's what that takes. So you can imagine how much work that is on top of doing other work. And so that is just an example, but also to answer that question, that sometimes feels a lot to show up, especially when you also have life going on, especially when you're not really in the right state of mind, or you're feeling griefy, or you're feeling kind of low and just no energy, not motivated. Those are the times that I feel are difficult. But why do I keep doing it? Is because what I've been sharing this whole time is because people want this. People need it. People are wanting to connect. They want community so bad. And this is why I do it. I do it for you, for me, for us. I've shared that always. I enjoy it thoroughly as much as you do. I learn so much every episode. Even when I'm doing solo episodes, I learn so much about myself. Where can I do better? Where am I doing great? I reflect a lot on that, because that's how you grow. That's how you can add more pieces to what you're doing. What moment made you feel like this is exactly why I started this? Yeah, I think just getting feedback. And a lot of times there's a lot of downloads. There's a lot of people from different countries. A lot of people don't share with you their thoughts or their perspectives, or, they don't not necessarily reach out to message you, but they're listening. And I think this is exactly why I started this, was actually just recently that really drove the point home. Like, I felt it in the last year from the feedback that I was getting, but really drove the point home was a couple of months, was in 2 different occasions. I've shared this, but I had a family member share that how helpful it was for them. And then I had someone else who I actually don't know, but they reached out to me on social media and sent me a really beautiful message and were thanking me for how much the podcast has helped them and supported them in their journey. They have vision loss as well. And they just shared such a beautiful message of gratitude, of just sharing how by me sharing my own story around that makes it less isolating, and it also gives them hope. And that's the other side of that, right? I want you to feel the relatability and the connection and validated in your experiences. And I also, the whole premise of this and the guest is to share hope and inspiration and empowerment. I want you to take authority and autonomy over your own life and know that you can better it. And so that was a message that I received, and it was just so beautiful. And that message, after all the messages in the last year and everything, this is why. I'm humbly just so grateful. I'm so blessed. I truly, truly mean that. I am definitely doing this from the heart. and my soul. And it's nice to know that what I'm putting out there is being picked up. And I wish I had this when I was going through the thick of my journey 8 years ago. How did you decide what parts of your own story are meant for the mic versus kept for yourself? Like I said, I share a lot. You know a lot about me, but there is a lot you don't know. There's a lot that I keep sacred. I keep very close to my heart. I think about whatever I'm going through. I'm the type of person, my trauma grief response is to dissociate and go inwards. And so I kind of just shut down a little bit. So I usually let myself do that process, let the emotions flow, let the tears, figure it out, and then I will come back with what I've learned through that experience and then share it with you. There is a lot that I do keep private, but when I'm ready and I feel like, okay, this is going to help others, this is going to help my community and the listeners and anyone else who might be going through a hard time, to instill that hope, to instill that freedom, and that they have the ability to choose different, to do different, to rewrite their story, that's when I will start sharing it online. But mostly I would say I'm an open book. If someone has listened to you over the past year through your stories, reflections, and conversations, what would you hope they've come to understand about you? That's a good question. I think first and foremost is I am human first, period, full stop. I am not above you. I am not behind you. We're the same. And I think that's what I really hope you've come to understand about me, that I am human first. Yes, I do this professionally. Yes, I'm a counselor. Yes, I have the coping mechanism. Yes, I have the skills. Yes, I have the education and all of that. But that's not everything. And I still struggle no matter what. And this is why I take you along the journey to normalize that. That doesn't matter who you are. You're still going to go through life. You're going to still go through adversity. And I hope that's really what you take out of me sharing this and get to know me on the level that you have, is that is my hope, that you understand that you are not alone, that I am also just human and I struggle and I have really, really, really bad days. I'm on my hands and knees more times than I'd like to admit, or I can count, just praying to God or crying, or in those I want to die God moments. And when I'm in so much pain and so much darkness, I go through that. They're not often anymore, but there are different seasons of life where I feel that, depending on what's happening and depending on how much I am grieving. And so I just hope you know that we are in this together. And I know you hear that sometimes, but we really are. But I'm also here to challenge you, because again, change isn't going to happen if you're stuck in the same cycle, stuck in the same loop. Sometimes we need to be pushed. We need to be challenged. Not sometimes, a lot of times we do. And that's what therapy and coaching is meant for. We're meant to grow and evolve. You need to be challenged, because nothing's going to change if you don't change. So if you're not changing on your own and you're not seeing your blind spots, or there's other things that are going on, it's my job to challenge you. And that's okay. That's the whole purpose of it. I've been challenged so much, so many times. I didn't just wake up and get here today to record this episode. I had to go through a lot. I had to face a lot of uncomfortable truths about myself. We're so quick to blame other people. We're so quick to, just not take full accountability of where we played a part in our life, in our circumstances, in our situations. It's so easy to play the victim card. And I hate using that word, but a lot of times it's so easy to just point outwards, when in reality is you had a lot to play with what probably happened. And that's really hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. That's why we're in the situation we are in collectively. People are just so butthurt about every little thing. This is not what it's meant to be. We are meant to be challenged. You're meant to take accountability of what's happening in our lives. We can't control a lot. There's things like circumstances that we can't control, but there is also a lot that we can control. And that starts with taking ownership and accountability for your own health and your life. and where you're playing parts in all these aspects of your life. And until you are able to do that, nothing's going to change. You can't just play victim for the rest of your life. You can't just play that sob story over and over and over again. And so I hope by me sharing what I'm sharing is, yeah, you can be validated, you can be seen, and you can be heard, but you also need to take accountability, and it's okay to do that. It's actually needed to do that if you want change in your life. Otherwise, you're not going to live a very happy life. And so that is what my hope is, and about me, is that I am human first. I go through everything that you go through in different ways, obviously, because my story is my story. And that I really hope you understand that how deeply passionate I am about this work. It takes a lot, but it's really nice for me to also connect with you. Just as much as you need or want connection, I also want it. And this is a form of me getting connection. Last but not least, question is, if you could speak to yourself on the day before you recorded episode 1, what would you say now? Oh gosh, I would tell her that 38-year-old Sara, just do it. You got nothing to worry about. You are going to kill this. You're going to learn along the way. There are going to be challenges, but that is life. You are meant to do this. You are going to thrive. You are going to make such a big impact in your communities, and even greater, far beyond, 9 countries, 17 episodes in 1 year. Like, you got this. You are gonna be amazing, and you need to lean into your heart, and this is gonna bring so much great opportunity for you. It's gonna bring so much purpose to you. It's gonna bring so much meaning in your life. It's gonna allow you to get more confident in yourself. It's exactly what you need, and it happened at the exact same time that it needed to happen. You wanted to do this 2 years ago, you weren't ready, but now you are, and you're leaning into it. You're leaning into your heart, into your intuition, and knowing that it does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be perfect to start. There's a quote that my therapist uses all the time, is done is better than perfect. And I've really leaned into that. I'm so proud of you, is what I would say. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. I'm so glad that you launch this and you're using your personal plus professional experience to bring these conversations to the forefront. You're stretching yourself, you're out of your comfort zone, but you are gonna do amazing, and just the community you're gonna build around this. And I can't wait to see where else this takes me. That's what I would say to that younger version of myself. Okay. Well, those are the questions. Those are some really good questions. And like I said, I just did this last night, so I had no idea what the questions were. I'm literally on the spot, pouring out to you whatever's coming through to me first in my heart and in my soul. I hope you have found comfort and solace in the Story Hour podcast in whatever way that is. Please continue to share it. That would mean a lot. Like I mentioned, the more people that share it and download it, the more it pushes it up in the algorithm, and the farther we can reach. Maybe we'll have more countries and cities in the next couple of months, or even 6 months from now. It's been such an honor to be here and to produce the show for you, with you. Thank you very much. Let's end off with this or that. So, one-to-one quality time or group hangs? I would say both, but I would say one-to-one. Voice notes or long-form texts? Long-form texts. Road trip or plane ride? Road trip. Save money or spend money? Right now I would have to say save money, but I do love to spend money. Take pictures or live in the moment? Ooh. Now I know why guests always feel stumped, because these are hard. I would say live in the moment. Although I do love pictures. Always early or always late? Always early. I hate when people are late. I'm always early. Podcast or playlist? Ooh. Playlist right now. Yeah, I think it depends on the seasons of life, But right now, I would say playlist. Alrighty, that's a wrap for episode 17, the Story Hour podcast. I will see everyone soon.